Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia, aka M Mighty Sophia, here to break down for you guys Season 5, Episode 5 of Bates Motel. We are, in fact, on the episode entitled Dreams Die First, I believe. Something super ridiculously uplifting like that. So, spoiler alert before I dive into the mad thick of things, as I shall be endeavoring to bear all in this review. And just remember, there are quite possibly, and indeed probably, details that I'm going to miss in this overview. So I implore you, keep the conversation going in the comments below, because this video is really just the beginning of the conversation. That's all it is. I'm here to spew my thoughts and emotions at you, and y'all get to put together the pieces of this puzzle that I vomit up with words. So let's get into this. And I will say real quick that I gotta talk a little bit quieter in this review, at least attempt to, because I am filming this in the dead dark of night, and there is currently a savage rainstorm that is going on right now, which could not have been more aptly timed, honestly, considering the weather in which the episode ended, of course, what with Marion Crane showing up at the Bates Motel and in the thick of a storm, and it just feels right. And I gotta say, what a freaking episode. I am just part of the reason why I've been waiting to do my reviews in the mornings, but I'm doing this right now while my thoughts are still fresh, because I just have all this energy and all of these emotions coursing through my veins, because this show continues to dazzle and disturb and surprise and subvert me at every freaking turn. And I could not possibly be more appreciative of this manic journey that we've gone on. And honestly, what a devastating and game-changing episode. Like, I think that if I had to pick one word to describe the crux of all events in this episode, it would be betrayal. Because what we see is this betrayal of what Norman desires Mother to be, who he wishes that she could be. In fact, she is not. As it turns out, Norma, I've said this in past reviews, she is such a fleshed out character, even in the landscape of Norman's mind, to the extent that she is not merely content to control Norman's relationships and to be the gatekeeper between himself and potential romantic liaisons that go against her will. That is far from her sole role in this situation. And what Norman doesn't realize is that in bringing her to life, he brings to life this side of him that can't be quenched, this side of him that thirsts for sexual satisfaction, something that could not be realized with Norma, something that he cannot realize in his relationships with other women, because Mother deters him from those things. And so when Mother takes over during his blackouts, she goes out on the town and she gets it on with other men, in fact. And seeing Norman having to come to grips with that is just like the freaking turmoil that this poor man is in. I say poor, and I know, of course, that it is his intentional choice to forego his medications, and he has in a sense brought this extreme state upon himself. But of course his psyche and his mental crises are born of such a complex medley of past trauma and his genetic makeup and all that good jazz. So of course it's not only his fault, but just wow. Those final 5 minutes of the episode, I think it was, where we see him just overcome with self-consciousness and paranoia as he's he's surrounded by all of these friendly and kind patrons at the White Horse Bar who are so accepting of him and recognize him indeed as Norma. And it would seem, in fact, that he's actually been going out dressed as her. So it's kind of wild to see the way that this show has fleshed out the character of Mother, who is not merely content to keep Norman at bay and away from other women, but in fact she wants to indulge her dark appetites as well. So the character of Mother is very much this she beast with agency and drive, and it is absolutely terrifying. And so I say that there is this betrayal that we've witnessed, this disparity between who Norman thought Mother could be and who she actually is in his body, acting out her wishes and desires. But ultimately it's Norman betraying himself, tragically enough. It is just so freaking tragic to me. Every which way you look at it, it is just downright devastating. And Freddie Highmore's acting continues to be on point, and as we see him unraveling and desperately searching for Mother, only to come to the conclusion that, well, he sometimes imagines that she's there and sometimes he becomes her. It's exactly like what he tells the psychiatrist who he runs into downtown. And so that's not only a kind of this exposition-y moment, but it recenters Norman in a place that he does not want to be. He wants to continue to stoke the flames of his fantasy and to keep this gilded, sunbathed house with his beautiful Norma, who in fact is still chilling like a popsicle in the basement in the cold storage throne room, looking like a regular queen of the damned. She's still down there, and in fact I think it would do Norman a bit of good to have a talking with her. I wonder who is going to discover her body next, of course, because Caleb came face to face with her earlier and Chick was kind of in that whole situation, but I wonder what the next encounter with her is going to be like. But yeah, so there are these big gut-wrenching epiphanous moments. Epiphanous, is that even an adjective? I don't freaking know. Epiphanous. I'm sticking with it. Anyway, these crazy moments for Norman, who in the process of trying to keep his fantasy alive realizes very much that he has only crafted this prison for himself, and in fact is sometimes this mobile prisoner while Norma goes and parties it up. And the whole revelation about her tryst with other men at the bar, it kind of reminds me of that encounter that Norman had. I don't remember which season it was. Maybe season 3, could have been 4, but I feel like it was a little further back, when Norman had that little shindig with the stripper. You remember that? Yeah. So, and it's interesting how shocking this is to us as the audience, because yes, obviously we know this split in Norman, and we understand both sides of it as best we can. But the showrunners and the writers have actually withheld this knowledge from us about what Norma has really been up to, or at least the extent of it, because we saw that scene a few episodes back where it was cutting back and forth between Norman as we see him and then Norma, and she's complaining about the boy that she has to take care of and all of that stuff. But this has clearly evolved into something so much more extreme, and that is a big dividing factor between the show and the lore on which it is based, is that Bates Motel is bringing all of this stuff out into the open, and it is just like Twin Peaks levels of melodrama and craziness. And I honestly do think it works. It's interesting how surprisingly not claustrophobic this final season feels. Like we would expect everything to be this super confined and heart palpitating ride to the inevitable end, and yet things continue to take these violent turns in directions that we don't expect, but that the show has been setting us up for. So that's been really incredible. As far as another betrayal goes, of course, we have Dylan's betrayal of Emma by withholding the truth from her. And there's a lot of, truth withholding is something that has happened a time or two in the show. I could probably count it on one hand. I tease. Anyways, so Dylan didn't tell Emma that the earring that he apparently is just keeping out in the open is actually not his mom's, but his mother's, and he thinks that Norman is crazy because, remember, Blair Watson and Norman killed his dad and things are bad, and then he went to the hospital and I thought it was going to be good, and then he came back and it sucked, and the way that Dylan revealed the truth to Emma, I was just like, girl, I do not envy you having to sit there and just take this truth that he's been holding back in the form of a freaking murder theory about your own mother of all people. It's like, dude, can you take things back a couple notches here, because I'm having a hard time processing this. And yeah, Emma does not take things well, so to say. And she ultimately discovers online, after apparently an internet media blackout for her and Dylan, that Norma allegedly committed suicide. At least that is what's online on the Motel website, which is just gotta be damn fine for business. But yeah, so I do strongly suspect, actually, that Emma and Dylan are going to find their way back to White Pine Bay. We see in the teaser for next week that Dylan calls Norman and confronts him about the truth that's been withheld from them about Norma's death. And I think that they're going to take up the roles of Marion Crane's sister and Sam from the original Psycho film. And of course, this leads me into a discussion of the big overlap between Bates Motel and Psycho, that being finally the entry of Marion Crane. And I think that they do a marvelous job of letting Rihanna rock the role without too much finesse, or not finesse is the word I'm looking for, but rather she's not this larger than life character. And I've been a big fan of Rihanna's music all throughout high school. Her jams have been a constant in my musical past, even though I'm more of a jazz blues kind of person. I very much admire her as an artist, and I think that she manages to make the character of Marion Crane really accessible and down to earth. And she comes across as a woman who, in fact, could very well exist in the world that we know. She is impulsive and ambitious. She knows what she wants. She knows who she wants. And she seizes an opportunity when it's presented to her in the form of a briefcase with, now I remember it's $40,000 is the amount that Marion Crane stole in Psycho, and I thought that they said $400,000, which, I mean, adjusting for inflation and such, I don't know. I don't know if I misheard that, but either way, it's a lot of figures. You've either got 5 or 6 digits, and she makes right on off with that, all them Benjamins up in there, tosses it in the trunk, and decides that she's gonna go down, pick up her boyfriend, and they're gonna start the life that they definitely are never going to have together. It's all very tragic and good stuff, but it's really cool to see this story brought to life in the framework of Bates Motel as we now understand it, because it simply feels like expanding the universe at this point rather than simply shoehorning in this classic story, and it seems to move really quickly. But it's more in the sense of like, oh, we're here already, you know. That's kind of what was striking me. But yeah, I think that Rihanna is she's gorgeous, she's magnetic, and she exudes these struggles that Marion Crane has, but in a really organic and not forced way. And of course, I am fresh off of watching many episodes of Iron Fist, and there's like a lot of contrived weirdness in there, so Bates Motel just feels that much better. I will certainly say that. And it's fascinating too to see how the character of Sam Loomis has been expanded by way of having Madeline in the narrative. Of course, this leads me to discuss what did not happen with her last week, which was her getting dead. That was not an occurrence like I thought it was going to be, and like many of us thought it was going to be. And so that's exciting because Madeline Loomis gets to be this character who Norman has projected Norma onto, whereas Marion Crane in this universe is completely different from Norma. She is her own person entirely. And so to see the dynamic that's going to unfold between her and Norman, especially as Norman is coming to grips with the full extent of who and what he is, I have no idea what to expect at this point. And we have to bear in mind that Alex Romero is still on the horizon, and Chick is still making sweet, sweet literary love to his typewriter, trying to capture this story for the future masses. And man, it's just the conflation of all of these fascinating characters and arcs. It feels so brilliant and pulpy and messy, and I love being in the thick of it. It truly is an exhilarating ride. And I've seen some reviews and some comments with people discussing certain things that haven't worked for them about this season, and how the loss of Norma really has been an irrevocable blight on the show. And I understand that. I really, really, really missed getting to see Vera Farmiga in this episode, but I think that her absence at this point is going to make her return, which I believe is going to be next week, that much more splashy and impactful. But of course, I could have her in every single freaking episode and would simply love it to bits and pieces. So yeah, this was a really, really weird and distressing episode in so many ways. But yeah, to go back to Madeline really quick, because I keep leading myself off down my own rabbit trails, it's interesting to see how Sam has actually concealed the marriage from Marion completely. So we think that she's just the mistress who is totally complicit, totally in on this situation. But in fact, he has actually lied about being in debt. And that is not the situation at all, which is a departure from the plot of the original film. And so it's really interesting having Madeline as this distinct presence in the show. It does make me really curious as to what role she's going to play in the proceedings, and what role, for instance, Sheriff Jane Green is going to have. It's like there are all these vultures circling over the graveyard of Bates Motel at this point. That's kind of what a lot of these different plot threads feel like. All of these birds of prey encircling and slowly descending into Norman's little world of of taxidermized critters and indiscretions and drinking binges and love making and cars, and good freaking Lord, man, this is this is absolutely bonkers. And I am both experiencing heart palpitations and enjoying every step of the way. Again, I absolutely commend Rihanna for her performance. I think that she's fitting in surprisingly well, and is doing her due diligence in this role, and I could really feel the strain that she was feeling as she was confronting her boss about, hey, maybe a promotion or maybe a raise. She's like giving this guy every freaking opportunity to get her to step back from that suitcase. Now, if we put Norma Bates in her shoes, she would take that suitcase and just whack that guy across the face, you know? Reminds me of a of a scene in episodes and seasons gone by where Norma attacked someone savagely with her purse. Which episode was that? Somebody tell me in the comments, please. I will love you forever. But yeah, and also interesting is Marion's trip to Bates Motel, because she makes this impulsive decision to commit larceny after giving her boss the opportunity to give her the opportunity to gain some upward mobility in the company. And she's like, dude, I'm not getting anywhere here. I'm not getting anywhere in Seattle. I'm going to kick it with my man, who's actually definitely not hers. And she's going to find that out real soon and probably commiserate with Norman over that situation, it looks like. But yeah, so she's not awakened by a state patrol officer who finds her sleeping on the side of the road or spied for trading in her car to get a vehicle with California plates. And instead of heading to, oh gosh, what was that? I think I wrote down, the city was Fairvale, California in Psycho. That's where she was heading from. I think it was Arizona. But at this point, she's heading down from Seattle to San Fran, or so she tells the cop, who's actually played by Carlton Cuse, who is one of the executive producers of the show alongside Carrie Aaron. So that was a really cool little cameo. His voice is very distinctive, so I saw him right away and I was like, huh. So it was kind of interesting how they just had it like, oh, her coat was hanging out of the back of her car over her license plate, so we couldn't see that. So it's not that she was speeding or anything like that. So that was kind of a fun, interesting little situation. But yeah, they cut out some of the extra stuff that Marion does before she makes it to the Bates Motel in the film. And I think that works because we have plenty of ground to cover at this point with so many different characters. And also a fun little Easter egg that I noticed is the fact that the real estate firm where Marion works, or at least worked previously, because I don't think that job or any job or promotion or raise is waiting for her when she gets back, but she's not getting back because she's gonna die. Probably. I don't know. Anyways, the real estate firm is called R.A. Block, which is in reference to the name of the author of Psycho, which is, I think it's Robert Albert Block, I'm pretty sure. Am I saying that correctly? It's B-L-O-C-H. It's not a word that I hear spoken on a regular basis, so I have to ask. But yeah, so this was a Romero and Chick and Norma free episode. I wish that we got to see more of Mother herself, but this was more about Norman exploring where he is at in the aftermath of his failed affair with Madeline. And yeah, so he has to face a lot of harsh truths about the fact that he is the one who Mother controls and purports, in fact, to protect. But then again, you think about what Mother told him before he went out with Madeline, and honestly, that was a warning that she gave him, telling him, you do what you're gonna do, I'll do what I'm gonna do. And it actually seems like maybe she's been doing that for longer than we thought anyway. But that betrayal, that cord between their hearts has become a stake that has been run through them both. And I am very afraid of what their next confrontation holds and how Norman is going to deal with this. You know, because oftentimes it's severe stress that sends him into these blackouts. So how exactly is he going to be able to retain control? And what is the arrival of Marion Crane going to spell out at this point? And he's also kind of lost access to Madeline Loomis as well, who was his Norma in the flesh. And so there is all this stuff that's up in the air. Dylan and Emma are probably going to be coming back soon. Alex Romero is still nursing his wounds somewhere, but I should say, while he was busy doing that, Nestor Carbonell got behind the camera this week, so kudos to him for bringing all of this material to vivid life. This was a really thrilling and devastating and awful and wonderful episode, and yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, love to hear if you're enjoying things. Again, if there's anything I missed, please, by all means, bring it up in the comments below. We will hash it out down yonder. So I'm gonna go to bed, but I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Please take care of yourselves. And as always, I will be back before you know it.